Well, guys, welcome. Another live version. We're getting closer to New Year's and that. Just want to show you guys where we're at on the F-86. And we're getting a lot closer. And I've got a lot of things done here and working on a lot. Shop's an absolute destroyed mess, but we're getting close to start putting on the glass. So anyway, I'm I actually have some parts sheeted and drying out now, but I'm working on the bottom of the fuselage. And this isn't really too much of a really hard thing to do, but it does take a little finagling to get all these parts to fit just right. And it takes a lot of time. And as you can see, I got the other side pretty much done. Getting ready to, I'm just started cutting out the landing gear pockets where the gear actually retracts in there, and then we're going to go ahead and start sheeting all the rest of this in. And this is getting real close to being done. Now, as you can see over here, I took some half inch wide by 3/32 and I just glued them with something to glue to because I want this area extremely strong. This is the whole bottom of the fuselage here, and what I'm doing. And as you can see, I cut these out to where the curves go, and then I will actually go. And that's the way the real one actually does, in fact, look. Now, as you can see, I've done a pocket in here. My servos just kind of pinch in there. They will have a piece of two-sided tape, and they will get pinched in there and then held on with 4 screws that go in there. They'll just be like just 4 wood screws is all I'm going to use in there. Now I'm gonna get ready and fill this in, but I got to run some wires in for the tail light that goes in there. But as you can see, these look really good, and so we'll get these done. We'll get them in glass, and I'll show you how to cut them out for the actual G10 hinges and stuff like that that we're going to be using in there, and the actual horns go in on both sides, and then we're going to start getting ready to start. As soon as we get this glass, we're going to start putting in a lot of electronics. And when I say a lot, there's a lot in a jet, and there's a lot of things that you're going to see that are just going to be kind of mind-boggling, just about how much really goes into one of these. Now, a few guys have asked me about the sheeting, and yes, it's not hard to do. The one thing you do want to do is make sure that you've alternated and staggered all your joints on these. And I use a 3-inch on this because it's stronger. You know, it doesn't, you can go with one more piece, but think of this as like a hardwood floor, guys. You know, you want to stagger this. Your first one, you're going to split it right down the middle as close as you can to it. Then you're going to put another piece in like so. Then you're going to put 2 short ones on the end, and then you're going to put in 2 more long ones, but you're going to stagger that joint. You don't want to be any more less than 3 inches. And then your next joint is going to be further down, like right here, 3, 6, whatever. But then your last one are going to be full runs. Now, there's another way you can do this, and a lot of guys do it this way. I don't, because I've never had an issue with a wing being weak like this. But you can put one sheet on, and then you can put them straight diagonal on there all the way down. But then you have a lot, and it has a tendency to scallop that way. Now, you want to sand your skin on flat. I use the floor. And you know what? Let me explain a lot of these things about the floor. The floor is flat. It doesn't have any rises, bumps, humps, nothing like that in there. So it does make it easier to actually pre-sand it, and then you can put it on, then you can block it later on there. And I usually just sand the bottom and make sure it's absolutely flat. And I use 80 grit on it and just call it good right there. I leave everything wild, as you can see, and then it's all there. This fuselage is just about done. I got one more piece to put on it right there, and then I will do the final body work on this and the tail. And I will probably start glassing this, and I'm going to start with the inside of the speed brakes, because I'm going to have to cut out part of them and make a mechanism that slides. Now, one thing that I need to do is cut this channel in here and make this, because the brake actually goes down there and actually into itself, and it'll be fine. And they look funny right now, but they are actually about the size they need to be. And I did them so we weren't cutting any of the keels or any of the longerons or anything like that in this. And I actually show that in another video on how I made these. And I build them wet, and with ammonia and hot water, to make sure that everything was form fitted and done. Now, I want to talk to you guys about this glass situation now, because a lot of guys have a very big misconception about this fiberglassing, and putting anything over 1 ounce on here, again, is absolute overkill. You can't rely on this fiberglass cloth to give this thing any strength. If you are doing that, then you build it wrong. And the thing is, the only thing that this glassing that we're going to do on this, because this is a wood structure, this will be nothing but a wood structure. So I do all my filling first. And that's so I don't over sand or get it too thin, because you don't want to do that. What you want to remember is that the only thing that this glass cloth is doing is keeping this all held together, and it's basically gluing all of this stuff together. And it's going to, okay, let's go with this. 1 ounce cloth is 1 ounce per square yard. We're going to be adding about 3 ounces to this by the time we put the resin. Now, I ordered 2 of these, and I do it a little bit different. I don't squeegee that on here. I actually thin my mix down 50% with denatured alcohol, because I like it to go all the way in and get a full penetration into the wood. But I'm gonna give you a warning about doing it that way, because you want it to soak into the wood, but you don't want to overkill it. And then I will squeegee over that to fill all the pinholes and weaves with actual just a straight mix. But I prefer to put it on extremely wet, so that I know it's gone all the way through that wood. And it's actually doing basically what that cloth is going to absolutely do is it's going to keep all of these grains from drying out and falling apart. You have to use the cloth then. And don't worry about the filler on it, because for one thing, that filler is never going to do anything, but it will accept everything that you're putting on there. And so I do my filling first, and we're getting very close, and then I can do a little bit of spot filling on that here and there. And then after that's done, I will take and I will bury this thing in 2K primer, and I will do a block sanding and get all that done. I might even do it twice, but it's very important that you use a high building primer when you do that, and you're not sanding into the fiberglass. Now, if you really want to see a guy that really knows his shit on this stuff like that, look up Bob Moore or Hornet Pilot and look at his videos. They're good, because I will be using the squeegee method on the wings and all that, but I don't like to do it on the fuselage, and it's a matter of preference, guys. The denatured alcohol gets the water out of the stuff, but it also does make it cure a little bit more even. Now, a lot of guys will argue that point. I know, after being a laminator in Bayliner and things like that, and making composite parts, that it's okay to do that in certain applications, because I want this to really soak in a lot of places, and a squeegee just is not going to do it for what I'm going to do. But brushing into all these little nooks and crannies absolutely will for me. It's very important that you don't put too much resin down, because it will float. So one of your biggest things is you don't want anything there in your first coat. It's going to be there, and also that denatured alcohol by thinning it out. And again, this is a matter of preference. And this just the way I like to do it, because I've got a lot of compound corners and all these other things that are in here. I want to make sure that I'm getting a good even amount of resin down, but not floating the cloth. And we'll talk more about that as I go in there and do it, because I'm going to show it, because I need to go down and get the pipe that I'm going to actually sit this on so I can rotate it. That is getting very close. This is getting closer. I got a couple more days on that, and then we can start doing it. Another thing I'm going to show you is the molding that I'm going to do. So I'm actually going to sheet over all of this, and then I'm going to and I'm going to lay this down actually, and I'm going to cover this in monocoat on the bottom. And I am going to make the 2 fiberglass covers that go over here onto this, and those will go in for the doors. And that's what I'm going to make. Everything out will be, and that'll be 1 ounce too. I'm just going to put a lot of layers down, and it'll be epoxy as well. And that I won't be doing in any other way, but well, just the way I know how to do it. So I'm going to be putting headlights in here, but in order to do that, I'm going to have to build some screwing points in here in order for these stills, because this door will be about this wide. We're going to have to add, the door actually is back here, and then it'll hinge up here and come down. But we need to be able to get in here to put the retract in. However, they're not here yet. So we're going to work around it. And I can make this cover, which will actually be about from here to here and up into here, because this is where the lights are going to be. And I will actually cut this open after it's done. And we'll carefully take this, sand this out, and then we'll go back and frame from the easy to reach into. And we'll make that out a 1/4 inch balsa. And then we'll cover that again in glass before we actually glue it in. And that'll be our landing gear doors and stuff like that. There's a long ways to go. I'm just talking kind of out in my rear here to show you guys that we're getting very close. And once we start glassing and we start making certain things and parts of this, it's going to be, we're going to be putting landing gear doors in the back, and we're going to be adding them to the front. There's a few other things that are going to go in, because I am going to build the FJ2. And the reason being for it is because I'm not going to spend all that money for a rotating front wheel. It's too much money for something that can't really see. But the thing is about these, nobody makes these 4/4 scales yet, and nobody just makes them readily available. Now, Lenny from Schindler Machine is up for the task, and that would be fine. But we're also dealing with a lot of extra monies that are just kind of floating in outer space. And I want to get this built reasonably as far as it goes with, basically what I'm saying is I want this built as reasonable as possible cost wise, and have a jet that is built out of wood that I built myself that looks every bit as good, if not as nice, as any of the ones you can buy out of the store, and show you that you can build this airplane for about the cost of one of the expensive kits. I'm not going to mention any names, but if you look at the cost for $4,000 to $5,000 for one, I personally get more satisfaction out of building these than I actually do out of the flying part of them. But I think in a lot of ways too, is that there's just a lot more to being able to say, yeah, well, I built mine. I didn't buy a fiberglass kit, and all the details I did and everything are my deal and my measurement, and my time, my effort. And I love doing that, because there's a lot of really cool things that go on this fuselage. And I'm going to show you guys a lot of this when we go in. I'm going to teach you about I'm going to show you how I actually apply the Mears detail sets, because, you know, I'm going to just grab one here just because, never mind all the other crap over there. Because, for one thing, I want you guys to see just how easy and simple things really can be. And guys, these are the Mears detail sets, and these are the things that this would be on the left side, but these are all the details that are going to go all over this thing. These are the things that are going to go in the rear. These are little things that are going to be all over, and actually they're actually the right size and everything. So you're going to be able to go in there. Once you get your drawings, you can figure out where they go. And once we have it in primer, I'll show you just how easy and how nice they really are. But we got a lot of body work before we start doing detail work. And we got a lot of fine tuning to do, a lot of final body work before we start glassing. Because once we get in here, we don't want to be sanding the fiberglass. You're defeating the purpose if you do that. And once we get the primer, the first priming job on this, you guys are going to laugh, because those of you have never detailed one of these or glassed one before, you're going to find out that your first coat, as long as you've used a high build primer, you're going to find every flaw in it. As good as this thing looks, when I sand it, it will damn near sand that first coat of primer off. We're going to have to, in fact, do it a couple times. And then it'll be ready for the panel lines. And that is an actual really cool thing to watch happen. And again, we will reassemble the fuselage once these two pieces are done. We will do the final fills, so we'll do all the final work and all that before we really start getting ready for the primer part. And then we will test fit everything and make sure everything is good. The wings those will get done quite a bit later, because we're waiting for landing gear. But that doesn't stop us from getting other things started. And we can actually draw in and actually make the landing gear doors open and close. We can start getting those mechanisms built and done while we're waiting for the landing gear, because we can mock it up using dowels. And I'm going to show you how to do that and how I'm going to do it, because I can go by the measurement, and I'm going to show you with a couple pieces of angle iron, you can make a mock landing gear very easily with, and you're going to need a drill, you're going to need some nuts and bolts, and you will need the wheels. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this and make this out of dowels that are the same size of the landing gear struts. If you got 7/8 or 1/2 inch, you're going to need 1/2 inch dowels, and we're going to take and make these, and we will temporarily affix them into place using washers and spacers to make them to where they actually will work for what we're doing. It's not a recommended way to do a lot of it, but it does work. And if you guys really want to get adventurous on there, I can actually show you and show you how to make an actual retracting landing gear with lineal servos. And it's basically working off the same principle as a real one, but you're going to have a drill press, and you're going to have some way to actually be able to work with some aluminum to do it. And you're going to need some T6 at the very minimum, or some 70. I recommend 60, 61 T6, because of the fact is it's not going to break like the 70 will. We're going to talk about a lot of this, and I might even go as far as to build the landing gear for this. And I just might. I don't know. I haven't completely decided on this, because it depends on time's really not a big major issue, but I am going to be looking at certain parts and pieces and things that I can make, and using other parts that are readily available in order to get and make my own struts or whatever. Now, landing gear is expensive, guys. You're not going to get away with it for less than $1,000. There's just no way to do it. It's probably one of the most. It's probably, other than the turbine that goes in it, it's probably the most expensive part of this build. And there's a lot of things that go into this that you're going to have some understanding. But if you have skills and knowledge in how to build things, then you got it whipped. So I'm going to cut this off for now. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as we build it. I know the place is a freaking disaster and all that, but then again, the whole intent and point of this series is you can build a quarter scale jet and you don't need a lot of room to do it if you know how to manage your space well enough. And you guys seen how I build everything. And so far the jet is an absolute monstrosity, and she's big. I basically built another tree out of an old one they cut down. So she's big. And so we will talk with you guys very soon. And I'm going to start showing you how I'm going to start doing some molding parts on this thing. We're going to iron on we're going to do some body work on the bottom of this. We're going to make these. We're going to make a couple fiberglass trays, and then we're going to go back and flip it over, and we're going to start making things for gear doors. And we're going to measure them off the real ones and put them in because they will fit. So there are some modifications to do what I'm about ready to do. And if you have not ever done this, then this is the time to really tune in and watch. The other thing I'm going to say right now is that if you have any reservations about cutting anything on this airplane, I would either recommend you stick with the Electron retracts or the Bowtech C50s at a very minimum. I'm going Bowtech with this, but the one thing is I want you to realize is that the links and everything else that goes in this, they're going to be slightly different, but it is absolutely possible to still make things work and make it look as good as possible, even though we don't have quarter scale rotating nose gear yet. So anyway, we'll get this figured out, we'll get it done, and then I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, Happy New Year's, everybody. If you drink like a fish, swim home. Don't drive. It's not worth that. It's not worth the responsibilities of something that could really badly happen, and I rely on all of you guys to stay safe, and I care about all of you. Everybody the very best of the New Year's, and just keep it safe, guys. Anyway, till then, we'll see you in Funny Paper.